Hey there once again, I'm Jeff Smith. This is Leading Edge. Toledo's Inverness Club is once again on the world stage. The USGA has announced the course will host the 2045 U.S. Open, one of the biggest events in global sports. But the announcement raises a lot of questions. For starters, why announce it 20 years in advance? And in a sport where players are hitting the ball farther every year, can a classic course like Inverness still challenge the best players in the world 20 years from now? Let's face it, we can't predict what this sport or the athletes are going to look like or do 5 years out, much less 20. Over the course of the next half hour, we're going to tackle the sports side of all of this, but the logistical side as well. Former Toledo sportscaster and current Golf Channel ESPN analyst Ryan Burr joined me this week to break it down.
Thanks for having me, and great to be back on in Toledo, a great part of my life and my family's life. Inverness, when you look at the history of golf in our nation, there's really no parallel to Inverness as far as what it's hosted, what it will host, and now getting the U.S. Open in 2045. It seems absurd that you're talking about 2045. When I got the news, I did laugh. Tiger Woods and I have become close through my junior golf series, and I texted him that his son, who has just signed with Florida State to play college golf, he'll be 38 years old when the U.S. Open arrives at Inverness. So maybe we have a Woods as part of the story in Toledo in 2038. Certainly, you, Tiger, and myself just hope we're still kicking in 2045. But, looking at the history of that golf course, the biggest thing is most golf courses have just been dated out because of the length, because of the equipment. Now, I know with the renovations, Inverness can now stretch to 7,700 yards, which is plenty long by even today's standards. But I'm just amazed of the tradition and history and the things that Inverness has seen in just the form of championship golf, from amateur golf to obviously the U.S. Women's Open to the U.S. Opens to the PGAs. It really has no other golf course that can say it can match what Inverness has been able to do. Oakmont comes to mind, certainly Pebble Beach. But when you look at the broad scale, Jeff, there really is no equal in the history of golf to what Inverness has seen and will see in the future.
When we came on here today, I wanted to pull some numbers, and I hope you indulge me here for just a second. But driving tour distance average, I went back and I said, okay, give me the last, in 20-year increments, how much of an increase we've seen. 1980, 256, 2000, 273, 2020, 296, and last year, 302 yards off the tee. Now, push it forward, and they are hypothesizing that by 2035, 310, 315, and 2045, 320. Is Inverness built, even 20 years down the road, to handle this type of development with the game?
Well, that is a loaded question, Jeff, and I'll start with saying this. Golf has prided itself that the weekend warrior can play the same equipment and play the same courses, if you will, that the major championships are held in the United States and abroad. I do believe, now, just take Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, you play with a wooden bat. From college on down, you play with an aluminum bat. So there are differences. Some sports have those differences. I do believe by the time, in fact, I strongly believe, if not guarantee, by the time we get to Inverness, there will be a rollback, and the PGA Tour will use a golf ball that only the PGA Tour uses, that brings that driving to about where it is today. I don't think they can go much further. As you read off those numbers. So in 10 years, when it takes another incremental jump, there will be too many golf courses with the history of an Inverness, of an Oakmont, of a Pebble Beach that frankly will just be obsolete because of how far they hit the ball off the tee. And the R&A, the USGA, the PGA of America will come together as the governing bodies. And I'm really boring you guys and going super inside baseball now, but I believe by the time we get to Inverness, there will be a cap on how far these guys can hit it.
So stay right there. When we come back with the expected distances off the tees, will golf's governing bodies roll back the golf ball to control distance? Also coming up, we're thinking about infrastructure challenges behind bringing the U.S. Open to Northwest Ohio. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. We're talking about the U.S. Open 2045. So what should Toledo leaders be thinking about right now, even though the tournament is still 2 decades away? You've been around the world. You've seen how these golf courses prepare for major events like this. Now, we've had the Solheim Cup. We've had the U.S. Senior Open in the last 20, 30 years. However, this is a big deal. Infrastructure, corporate dollars versus USGA input. What are we looking at a dynamic there? If the Toledo fathers, right, who are going to be in place in 20 years, what do they need to be thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it's nowhere near ready. Funny enough, my newlywed and I, when we moved to Toledo to accept a television job there, our first place we lived was Country Club Apartments, where I shared a fence with Inverness and often hopped over that fence and hit the ball around in twilight. Parking, my guess is the only option there is University of Toledo, and then everything will be bussed in. With that said, I'm still seeing an absolute logistical nightmare as far as hotels, restaurants, and just the amount of traffic. I will say there aren't many golf courses as unequipped to handle what that rush would look like in 2045. Now, let me parlay that with something. My folks live in Pinehurst, North Carolina. Yep.
We went down to the U.S. Open 2 years ago. That, as you know, around Pinehurst, very tight. Yep. You have to go out to Aberdeen and other areas as far as hotels are concerned, but they're built for this kind of thing. Compared to Oakmont, compared to Shinnecock, are those areas better equipped? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Well, Oakmont is in Pittsburgh. And as far as Oakmont itself, it's surrounded by fields that they can just park on, just, giant grass fields. A lot of major championship golf courses, that golf course is a 36-hole facility, and they make the deal with the devil, and that entire other 18 holes are parking. They park on the golf course of the neighboring golf course. Again, I'd like to know how many parking spots would be available at UT, because that obviously is an extremely short and convenient drive. But again, you're talking about Baltusrol, you're talking about, they're using Newark and New York City as their hotels. Oakmont's using Pittsburgh, which, you're talking about professional sports teams, college teams. There are, hundreds of hotels that are options in the Pittsburgh area. Pebble Beach is interesting because that is in Carmel, and it's not a super populous area, and everyone does have to be bussed in. Listen, it 100% will be done and can be done. I'm just saying, in my mind, picturing the road that drives in front of Inverness, that drives in front of Country Club Apartments, that goes down past UT. Dorr Street, thank you. That is not a great road to be equipped for what is going to be pouring into Toledo. Now, the good news, Jeff, they have 45 years or or 20 years to figure it out, 2045. So there will be improvements in infrastructure for sure. I
But
guess
it does put, and I'm imagining the USGA figures all, has a list, checks these things off, is looking toward the future, but it really, really does put the onus on the city to be ready. And I parlay this, Ryan, with there was a lot of corporate involvement with Solheim,
yep.
i.e., ProMedica got a lot of financial backing for that tournament. They don't do that kind of stuff anymore. They are laser focused on healthcare. So when you go to these other towns, how many corporate dollars make these things happen?
Well, the good news for the U.S. Open is every corporate tent that needs to be sold will be sold. And a lot of that is going to be coming in from out of town, right? But the question you guys should prepare yourself is Toledo equipped for 1 million visitors to arrive to partake in the U.S. Open experience? And remember, it is Sunday through Sunday. For many people, their best options are the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday ticket. Those will be sold out. The Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday non-tournament action will be sold out with spectators, with fans, with corporate hospitality. The U.S. Open has become so big that while there will be Toledo hospitality that is offered and is granted, that is an event that your big boys, Amazon's coming in, FedEx is coming in. They're coming in and they are hosting an event for all of their corporate sponsors that they are bringing into the U.S. Open and want to give them an incredible experience, which again goes back to restaurants and hotels. As you know, there are differences between hotels and motels. And when these companies come in, they do, to a certain degree, want to give this is a one-time deal. They are bringing their client base in, and they want to give them 5 stars for sure. It will be ready. There's no doubt in my mind Toledo will be ready and equipped for that. I've been to 12 straight Masters. Augusta, Georgia is far, far smaller than Toledo, Ohio. What Augusta does is they build a city for full corporate hospitality dinners, breakfasts, lunches that are essentially in high-end tents that they can provide the full 5-star experience. Maybe something like that happens, but again, where do those tents go? Again, all I can think is the parking lots at UT, and I'm just wondering if even that is enough, and if you need more than that, what's the next biggest parking area?
Coming up, Ryan explains why course setup, not just length, may be the real key in 20 years. Welcome back here on Leading Edge. Inverness underwent a major redesign that stretched the course out to more than 7,700 yards. But according to Ryan Burr, length alone doesn't determine whether a course can host a U.S. Open.
And I will tell you, every golf course in America, every single golf course in America could make their golf course where the best players in the world couldn't shoot 80. Okay? That's every golf course. You can make it where I live on a golf course here in Orlando, and on New Year's Day we have a thing called Tough Day, where anyone can come in. It's a private club, but anyone can come in on New Year's, and you put your $100 down, and if you break 80, they give you $100. No one can break 80. We have players coming in. Famously, Bubba Watson quit on hole 17 because he didn't want to post his score. This is our easy golf course. That we live on. But like I said, it's called tricking it up. Now, no player wants that. No one wants to do that. But if Inverness wanted to, they could have it where you couldn't shoot 90. And I mean that. Like, you can grow the rough 3 feet high. You could have the fairway be 3 feet wide. You could have the greens rolling to 17 and put the pins on the crest of a break. I mean, that no one would want that, because that isn't a fair test for the players, and obviously no one wants to see everyone shoot 90. My point is Inverness can do whatever it needs to do to be at a championship level and to be where the USGA is satisfied that it's not over the top and it's a fair test. And if that means 12 under wins, that means 12 under wins. If that means 20 under wins, that means 20 under wins. If they want it to be over par, it's the snap of the fingers to the great grounds crew there, and the winning score will be over par. It's up to them because, like I said, any golf course can make the course unplayable by the length of the fairway and the height of the rough. To your point of how far they're driving it, if your fairways are 10 feet wide and the rough is 3 feet high, you would then effectively take driver out of every player's hands where they could not. Just an example of this, where we saw this was the Ryder Cup in France. Now, I guess it would be 3 or 4 years ago. They essentially did that because the United States had such a dominant advantage in length off the tee. They grew the rough up and brought the fairways in. And for the U.S., the course was downright unplayable because they just weren't equipped. I mean, you had to be hitting iron off the tee, which again, now if you're 7,700 and you're making players hit iron off the tee, now they're hitting 3 iron into the green. I mean, like I said, they won't trick it up because no one wants that.
Yeah.
But degree of difficulty is not something that anyone needs to be worried about.
A couple of things left. I wanted to roll back the rollback. You talked about the golf ball, and for somebody who doesn't understand what you're talking about right there, in fact, I would like to dive into it a little further. What does that mean, Ryan? How does that happen?
Right. So right now you can go into your local store or your pro shop and you can buy a Pro V1, Pro V1X, a TP5X from TaylorMade, the Chrome Soft from Callaway, the Wilson staff, and you can play the exact same ball that Rory is playing, Scotty is playing at the U.S. Open, or this week at the Arnold Palmer Invitational here in Orlando. And you can use the same driver that they use. And the golf industry is a $1 trillion industry because everyone wants to play what the pros are playing. The golf ball, in addition to the golf club and the player's physicality, bigger, stronger, faster, the golf ball and the golf club have also increased speed, aerodynamics, and length. The golf ball, if they went back 5 years and they gave the player the golf ball from 5-10 years ago, you'd immediately see 5 to 6 yards less off the tee, strictly because of the technology of the golf ball. And that's why I think, especially by the time we get to Inverness, there will be a universal ball that has to be cleared by the PGA Tour, in this case, the USGA, in order to be able to go and play. And it simply won't go as far as the ball they're using today.
So you're just saying they probably kept the paperwork on what they did on those balls, and they can roll it back.
They can roll it back. They can take the technology out of the ball that is allowing it to go to these increased distances, and they can take it back as far to whatever year, you read off the years. Now, certainly the club matters, physicality matters. The players are bigger, stronger, faster than ever before by a mile, but the ball is the key there. They can take the ball back in time as far as they need to, and that is going to bring the distance back.
Amazing. Final thought from you. You said you texted Tiger after you heard the news. What should Joe Toledoan think about this moment? If he's sitting here at 80 and knows I'll never see this, but I can have some pride in knowing that Toledo's on the map again.
Well, I think the biggest thing is Ohio is one of the great sports states in America. Certainly Jack Nicklaus, Columbus, Ohio State, Ohio. The fact that Toledo is the place that has the course that is the crown jewel of professional amateur golf, championship golf in the United States. I think the entire state, and that's the thing again about the infrastructure. I mean, you're going to have everyone from Cleveland, from Ann Arbor, from Columbus, from Cincinnati that is going to, this is their chance. This is Ohio hosting the United States Open. It's probably the biggest event in the history of Toledo, Ohio.
You don't know what you don't know. Do you think the city planners need to get some help on getting ready for this thing?
Again, I'm not inside enough to know, for example, what kind of parking the Mud Hens have downtown. I mean, like you said, you have been to places where it's not an ideal situation. Marion, outside of Philadelphia, was a 30-minute bus ride from their parking at Villanova. You know, no one likes a 30-minute bus ride. No one likes to park their car and sit on a bus on a 85-degree humid day in Toledo and ride a bus for 30 minutes and then try to get on a bus to go home back to your car. But it's been done. And if that ultimately is what has to happen in Toledo, that will happen in Toledo. They will figure it out. There'll be a lot of cooks in the kitchen that make sure Toledo is ready, I'm sure.
Ryan, good stuff. We'll be back right after this. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Leading Edge. If you want to reach the show with comments, ideas, suggestions, it's easy. Just send us an email. It's leadingedge, all one word, at WTOL.com. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jeff Smith. Until next time, listen, learn, and lead. Hi, I'm Jeff Smith. This week on Leading Edge, something big is coming to Toledo, even if it's still 20 years away. Inverness Club has been selected to host the 2045 U.S. Open, one of the biggest sporting events in the world. The course has already undergone major renovations, stretching the layout to more than 7,700 yards. But here's the twist. By the time the U.S. Open arrives in Northwest Ohio, professional golf itself may look very different. Players today hit the ball nearly 50 yards farther than they did in 1980. And golf's governing bodies are now debating whether to roll back technology in the golf ball to control distance. So, what does that mean for a legendary course like Inverness and for the future of the sport? We check in with former Toledo sportscaster and Golf Channel analyst Ryan Burr. He joins me all to break it down this week on Leading Edge. Download for your TV and watch for free. All right. Thank you for the click. 3, 2. Hi, I'm Jeff Smith. This week on Leading Edge, Toledo just landed one of the biggest sporting events in the world. The 2045 U.S. Open is coming to the Inverness Club, an historic Donald Ross design that's already undergone major renovations to keep pace with the modern power game. But the bigger question might not be about the golf course. it might be about the future of professional golf itself. 3-2. Today's tour players average more than 300 yards off the tee, nearly 50 yards longer than golfers in 1980. And that distance boom has golf's governing bodies asking a serious question. Do they need to change the ball to 3-2. Now I'll just do this all. 3-2. Today's PGA Tour players average more than 300 yards off the tee, nearly 50 yards longer than golfers in 1980. And that distance boom has golf's governing bodies asking a serious question. Do they need to change the ball to protect historic courses? 3-2. So by the time the U.S. Open arrives in Toledo, the course will be ready, but the game itself might look very different. My full conversation with Golf Channel's Ryan Burr about the future of golf and what it means for Inverness. That's on Leading Edge. You can also follow us on the Leading Edge podcast. Check it out at Apple and Spotify.